future reality, I shall destroy you.
I reject your reality and I substitute my own.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
The name Charles Band is one that's not heard very often on this show, but rest assured, it's one I've been meaning to bring up for quite some time. The films in both the Empire and Full Moon catalog are a staple of the direct-to-video scene and the video store scene, and most cult film aficionados out there have a lot of them on their favorite lists. Empire Pictures and the later Full Moon Pictures helped bring us the fantastic Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton Lovecraft flicks of the 80s like Reanimator, From Beyond, and Castle Freak, the awesome Trancers, superhero-style films like Dr. Mordred and The Eliminators, the unforgettable Subspecies series, and of course, two that are very near and dear to my heart, Puppet Master and Ghoulies. And if you're not so familiar with the man's overall library of work, you may be familiar with one of his more earlier produced works from the late 70s, directed by Michael Ray of Aliens Gone Wild fame, that was immortalized on the amazing Mystery Science Theater 3000. I'm of course talking about Laser Blast, which I consider to be one of the all-time classic MST3K episodes. So with this grandiose intro to Charles Band that I've just given you, what are we going to go with here? A video store classic like Ghoulies or Puppet Master, perhaps? How about the classic horror comedy Reanimator? Well, obviously not, because this video is called Cine-Masochist Rage War. So, it's going to be Rage War, or Dungeon Master, depending on which release of it you've personally seen. Dungeon Master was written and directed by... Actually, more on that later. Let's just go right into it for right now. This 80s dork jock, Paul. Yeah, I just said dork jock. He's a dork, but he's athletic and wears tiny little red shorts. Look, just let me go with it, okay? This 80s dork jock, Paul, that tends to spend more time with this supercomputer he's created called Excalibrate than with his girlfriend that teaches an aerobics class or something, is transported into an alternate reality or realm by this interdimensional demonic being named Mystima, who I have to say is actually played brilliantly by the awesome Richard Mole. He was also Big Ben in House, Yurok in Metal Storm, on a bunch of episodes of the A-Team, voice work on Superman the Animated Series, Freakazoid, and is still doing stuff. He's awesome! Anyways, Mystima has double-dragoned Paul's girlfriend as leverage to force him into a series of challenges to test his computer wizardry versus Mystima's demonic sorcery. Alright, so the stage is set. I can get into talking about why I avoided talking about the director, because there is no director, or at least there is no a director, because there are 7 fucking directors for this film. And before you start clamoring on about, well, why the fuck does this movie need 7 directors? What kind of massive clusterfuck is this? Well, Rage War, aka Dungeon Master, is technically, secretly, kind of an anthology film. See, what I find really interesting about this movie, and why I decided to make this the introduction to Charles Band for my show, is because I really dig the setup for the anthology structure here. We get the typical supervillain captures the hero's girl and starts making his demands, but what this is simply a segue into the anthology host, which is Mystima, introducing each challenge, which is actually each story, of which is also actually paying homage to different film subgenres. There's a slasher segment, there's a Ray Harryhausen-style stop-motion monster segment, a Mad Max-style segment, segments dealing in fantasy ghouls and cave beasts and an ice fortress of sorts, and a W.A.S.P segment. No, not the bug.
I'm a lion, I'm a king. I have no morals and I'm a thief.
yes, W.A.S.P, as in the fucking awesome band W.A.S.P, as in white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, or as in we are sexual perverts, or as in, well, alright, sure, pal, or was it we ain't sure, pal? At this point, I don't even think Blackie knows. This segment is titled Heavy Metal, and it's directed by Charles Band himself, and it's actually, in my opinion, the fucking highlight of the film, not just because I'm a massive fan of W.A.S.P, but the history behind it. See, this film was shot just as W.A.S.P were getting pretty big on the scene. This was right around the release of their first self-titled album. They're playing Tormentor, which is on that album, and it's filmed at the Troubadour, a venue that W.A.S.P and many other metal bands of that LA Sunset Strip era would play at. So this segment is both like being at a really bitchin' W.A.S.P concert, a really high-quality W.A.S.P music video, and getting to see Blackie Lawless just totally bitch-slap jock dork. I get the sense that Charles Band was a pretty big W.A.S.P fan at the time because through the years, he would try to get Blackie Lawless on other projects. In the '86 film Terror Vision, a clip from the heavy metal segment prominently featuring Blackie appears on the TV. And in '87 for Ghoulies 2, not only is there a song from W.A.S.P in the film, it was written for the film, and a music video for the film was shot featuring Blackie basically being the ringleader of the Ghoulies. It's fucking great. Another segment that's actually really worth mentioning in Rage War is Demons of the Dead, particularly because it was directed by John Carl Buechler. Buechler has worked with Band for quite a few years, lending his effects work expertise to Ghoulies 1 and 2, directing Ghoulies 3, effects work on other Band-produced flicks like Eliminators, Terror Vision, From Beyond, fuck man, the list goes on. Buechler is of course a legend in his own right, creating the design for what many fans consider to be the definitive Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 7, which also pretty much officially introduced the world to Kane Hodder. David Allen's Stone Canyon Giant is also more than worth mentioning because of the awesome stop-frame motion effects. I feel like they were definitely going for like a classic Clash of the Titans or Sinbad style here, and David certainly has a talent for this sort of effects work. He goes all the way back to '78 with Charles Band for his stop-motion alien effects work on Laser Blast. He's done higher profile stuff like The Howling. He's worked with Larry Cohen on The Stuff, the great stop-motion segments in Ghoulies 2, awesome effects work for Robot Jocks, and was the chief puppeteer on one of my all-time favorite films of my childhood, Willow. And the other segments are pretty cool, but these are the ones I've chosen to spotlight. I will make mention to Ted Nicolo's Desert Pursuit for reusing cars and some props from Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin. Ted is also one of Band's regular directors, directing the likes of Terror Vision and I think like all of the Subspecies movies. So how does Rage War, aka Dungeon Master, end? Does Paul get his girl back? Does Mestima get his shit pushed in? Well, yeah, obviously. One final trivia note though before I fuck off, and to bring things back to Band's love for W.A.S.P yet again, one of the Dungeon Master releases for this film features Blackie Lawless being showcased on the cover more as the Mestima character. I actually really dig this poster though. I love it on a shirt. It's also a lot better than this one with the weird, poorly connected red grid and Mestima looking more like Michael Ironside in Highlander 2. That's it. That's the episode. Go check out Dungeon Master or Rage War or whatever title it comes up as. I'm the Cine-Masochist. It's the year 2020. And remember,